Hey, remember the season of Shadowhunters, the Mortal Instruments on Freeform, and as you guys know, I was not a fan of the show initially. I watched the first episode and I didn't like it. I thought that it was way too exposition heavy. I thought that there was way too much stuff going on. It was quite confusing. It really seemed like the show wasn't really going to be something that was interesting. It looked like it was just going to be like a show that gives me a headache. It really seemed like it was going to be one of those headache-inducing type shows with like tons of exposition and things like that, and I really was not interested in the show. However, once I steered away from the show, which I never initially meant to, I did want to keep watching a couple more episodes. But as I steered away, I heard it got better and better and better as it went on. So I figured, okay, I'm going to binge the first season, and then I will make the conclusion of if I really do like the show or not. And I have to say, while this first season definitely is not perfect, as it went on, there definitely were problems with this show. But as the season went on, those problems really started to take a back seat and really started to, the positive things in the show really started to show. The acting got better. The writing got better. The show started to realize, what worked and what didn't work. And in general, I think every episode got significantly better. And in the end, this was a lot more entertaining of a show than I thought it was. I really enjoyed this first season overall. There are definitely a lot of things that very much upend the show from being, as good as it could be, but I really did love this season overall. Well, I didn't love it. I really did like this season overall. I thought they took the show into some very interesting directions, and especially the way things left off, I'm very interested in seeing where season 2 is going to go. Now, I'm not going to do this in a way I would recap the entire season. I'm just not going to do that. I'm going to talk about some of the significant stuff that happened with some of the characters and things like that. I'm not sure what just fell, but I'm going to talk about some of the things that happened with some of the characters, the things I liked, the things I didn't like, and then where I think we're headed for season 2. So let's just get right into it, starting off with the cast overall. First of all, let's talk about Catherine McNamara as Clary, because as I told you guys in my review of the first episode, I think she could be a really great actress. I really do. I think this is someone who has the credentials. I think she has worked in Hollywood long enough, and I think she could be in a really good, one of those really good, like, CW type comedy series, or like a Sweet Vicious or something like that. She did not initially seem like she fit within this show. And that was definitely the case. I think in the first few episodes, there was a lot of overacting of her being like, oh, Simon, like her freaking out over Simon, or just the amount of lines she would say would come across as really silly. But I don't think it's the actress. I think it just took a while for her to get into this character because she really hasn't played a character quite like this before. And I gotta say, as the show went on, I think she really did get better and better. Now, I will definitely say Clary in general, they don't do a ton with. They definitely do stuff with her as a character, but there's nothing with her personally except that she gets closer with all the Shadowhunters and she starts to learn more about the Shadowhunters, things like that. Of course, the biggest thing being that Valentine, she eventually finds out, is her father, which I thought was a good twist, the way they did that in episode 2. But I thought overall she definitely did get better and better in her role, especially in an episode later in the second half of the season that involves her trying to contact Valentine when she goes into this alternate dimension. She really shined in that episode because she was the only one in that episode who's from, the normal world, who's not from this alternate reality, and she really shined there. You could really tell that she was very confused. She didn't really know how to act, and I thought for, especially, as the show went on, she really did get better, and I really do think it showed with her. I really did like the direction they went with her character towards the end of the season. Some of the moments with her still felt a little bit forced. Like, anytime she was trying to be a badass, I didn't feel it. I really did not. There's one moment in episode 11, I'm not gonna lie, I did laugh a little bit, but I thought overall she was pretty great. I thought she definitely needed to get better as the season went on. And like I said, the more comfortable she got, the better of a character she became, and I think that really did fit with her character overall. And then Dominic Sherwood as Jace. Initially, I thought that he was quite bland, and there really wasn't anything that great about him. But I gotta say that at first, his chemistry with Catherine McNamara was very forced. They were trying to force down all this Clary Jace down her throats. Oh my god, you must care for Clary and Jace. You must do all you can to care about these two. But as the show went on, their chemistry became less of forcing it down their throats and more of just really natural stuff. I think these two actors got a lot more comfortable and they started to work really, really well together. And I started to really enjoy their scenes on the show. I thought they worked really well. they don't really do a ton with Jace personally till the second half of the season, when some big things are revealed that I'm definitely going to get into. But I thought his chemistry with Clary definitely did improve as the show went on. I cared more about them. I wanted to see them together, and I really was heartbroken once we get to the tragedy that they give us in, episode 12. In fact, I think they did a lot better than they did in the movie, and that's something I will definitely give the show, is that in general, this is definitely a much better, version of the show than the movie ever was, in my opinion, at least. And I think Dominic Sherwood really did get into his role. He had some really kick-ass moments in the show. Like, you really did feel how much of a badass he really was, and I really did start to like Dominic Sherwood as show went on. He really was great. However, by far, I think the two best actors in the show and the two characters with the most development, the best being Alberto Resende as Simon. He was great in this show. I mean, he started off, and I thought that, okay, it was a little bit forced as him as a nerd, but as the show went on, he really got great, I gotta say. I think he really is the best actor in this show, and I don't know if he's worked before, if he's done other stuff, but he really was great. I mean, his undenying love for Clary, both as a best friend and also kind of as a love interest, you can tell he really does like her, is really great to watch, but also realizing that he can't be with Clary because of Jace and everything like that, his you feel very heartbroken for him. But then they take the character in a whole different direction in episode 6, and it was really well done the way they do that, and I'm going to get into that direction right now because I really do want to talk about it. Essentially, Simon is, he's the mundane of the group. They're constantly picking on him because he's the mundane, and he's trying to get away from Clary, realizing he doesn't really have much of a purpose in, where he is and everything in the Institute. He just doesn't really fit in there. So he's trying to get home. He has a normal life and everything, and he's trying to adapt to normal surroundings and things like that. But he ends up getting attacked by Camille. Now, Camille was this girl who constantly was torturing him. It was a little bit silly. I definitely will admit that the storyline was silly with her kind of telling him, to give into your desires and things like that. You could tell that she really was trying to seduce him. She ends up killing him, and he's not dead, though. Obviously, he's not dead. Clary has to make the very difficult choice to bring him back or, just keep him dead. She obviously does choose to resurrect him, but that comes with a price, because as Simon's resurrected, he actually is turned into a vampire, and that takes his character in a whole different direction that I felt worked a lot better than it did in the first half of the season. Not that it didn't work, but I just feel like they didn't really have a ton to do with him. I always felt like Simon was just kind of there, and this really got Alberto Resende to shine very, very well, because him turning into a vampire completely changes his character. I mean, he now has this craving for blood constantly. He feels that he's a monster, he feels that he can't go back to being a mundane. His mother, he can't go back to that life, and you just feel so heartbroken from him. While he is happy what Clary did, at the same time, he's kind of holding a little bit disdain for her because, he's now back as this monster, and he would have rather just be dead. And the way that storyline goes, I thought was very well done. They very well got into Simon's head. They did some really great stuff with his character overall, and I really did feel the chemistry between him and Catherine McNamara, even more than Dominic Sherwood. I felt like these two had pitch-perfect chemistry as the show went on. They worked so well together. They had some great comedic moments. They had some great dramatic moments. I really thought they worked really, really well. I loved watching these two together. I thought they were a lot of fun to watch in the show, but then the direction they took with him in the second half, I liked that they kept him, as the funny one. They still gave him some funny lines to have here and there. You don't have to change his character completely. They changed who he is, but they didn't change his identity, and I really did love the best character. He really was great in the show, and I really loved Alberto Resende throughout this entire thing. Like I said, I think out of everyone, he really was the standout for me personally. And then the other character that I think is just as developed as Simon, because there really only are two characters who have constant character development, and that is Matthew Daddario as Alec, who I will admit at first I thought was really bad in this role. I thought a lot of his lines came across as very wooden, very much like he was reading off the script. It just didn't seem like he was very much into this character, and his arc is a bit repetitive. He has a crush on Jace, who they constantly say, oh, we're parabatai. Like, we get it, you're parabatai. We get that you've known each other. We get that you've been brothers since birth. We completely understand this. If you keep saying it over and over again. But you can tell that Alec, it's not going to work out with Jace because he's not gay. He likes Clary. So Alec starts to fall in love with Magnus, played by Harry Shum Jr. And their chemistry is really well done. Like, you really do feel their chemistry overall. Magnus feels that he's best for Alec, that he's going to give him what he wants. He wants him to open up to his desires and enlightenment and things like that. And he feels that he can give Alec, he will make Alec be his true self, because Alec is gay. He knows he's gay, but he's not out to a lot of his family. Isabel knows he's gay, but no one else really knows. And I thought their whole storyline was really well done. I like what they did with them overall. And especially the direction they take in the second half of the season. They did it in a really well done way, because there's this girl, Jocelyn, that comes in the picture, and Alec has to make a difficult choice. Does he want to sacrifice, the entire does he want to sacrifice the entire institutes, being shut down, all the circle, or is he going to protect his family? In the end, he has to protect his family, and he actually ends up proposing to Jocelyn. But while that is going on, he does kind of have this relationship with Magnus. You can tell really is the one that does care about him, really is the one he should be with. So it kind of is this messy type of storyline where you got a ton of things going on, quite a few. It kind of divides Jace and Alec for a while, because Alec starts to like Jace, and Clary is like the first one to notice it, but Alec tries to hide it as best as he can. And as it went on, I thought he got better and better as the show went on. I thought he really started to understand this character more. It's a difficult character, definitely, but I thought as the character went on, he got better and better, and I really started to like him more as the show went on. I really thought that he got better with time, and I thought that his arc in general, the way they ended it towards the end, definitely did go in a very interesting direction. I'm definitely interested in seeing where it's going to go in Season 2. However, other than those two characters, the rest of the characters this season aren't nearly as developed, and especially someone like Imerti Tobia as Isabel, who at first I really didn't like. I thought that everything about her seemed very, very fake. She's only there because she's attractive, and they cast attractive people on this show, and that they didn't really think about her acting. Her acting was very, very shaky in the beginning, and they took her in some strange directions. Like, she has this affair with, one of the rivals of the what do you call it? The thing that I can't think of the name right now. I can't think of what it's called, but she has like this relationship going on with I can't think of his name. Oh, what's his name? Shit. I can't think of his name right now. I'm sorry. I just can't think of his name. The Clave. Okay, she has a relationship going on with the Clave. Who's kind of like the rivals and everything. Not Maurice, what's his name? Meliorn, there we go, Meliorn. She has a relationship going on with Meliorn, and it's kind of interesting, but kind of not. And then she kind of becomes the sister to Alec and everything, and she kind of breaks up with Meliorn. And after she saves Meliorn and stops, almost in trial for it, but luckily, Jocelyn ends up putting an end to this trial because she finds it quite meaningless and finds it that, Isabel did a good deed. Isabel doesn't really have much of an arc after that. She's Alec's sister. She does little things here and there, but she really didn't have anything for herself to do personally. And I think that the actress got really, really good. Like, there's this one scene with her in a trial that I thought really was great. But the actress never really had much to do. They didn't really give that, I didn't really feel the arc really served her character's justice. There really wasn't much for her to do. I felt like they could have given her a lot more, and I'm hoping in Season 2 they do, because she really didn't have a lot more to do. And then Isaiah Mustafa really got the short end of the stick here as Luke. I mean, Luke is a character who starts off very interesting. He's someone who is kind of like a slave to Valentine. He works for Valentine. He's forced to give in to Valentine. And it's a lot for Clary to process. There's this huge exposition episode. We find out that Luke and Jocelyn were actually the reason why things turned out so badly for, Luke and Jocelyn. Not Jocelyn, Lydia was her name that Alec was supposed to marry, not Jocelyn. Jocelyn, and, we find out that those two, they were the ones who turned Valentine bad. And Luke, there's a lot to do with his character, but they don't really do a ton with him. He's just kind of there. He's there when they need him. He gives the characters pep talks, and they don't really utilize him that well. I think that Isaiah Mustafa got really good in the role, but they just didn't really do a ton with him. Early in the beginning, it seemed like he was going to be doing police work and things like that, but then they didn't really do much with his character, and I really never found myself that compelled. I felt like he was just kind of there, as well as Harry Shum Jr. as Magnus, who I thought started off really, really silly and really over the top. But as his relation with Alec went, I started to really like his character. I just didn't really feel they gave him individual character development beyond liking Alec. Other than that, there really wasn't much else going on with him. He was just kind of there. He was there when Alec, had something going on. And other than that, I thought the cast definitely did get better, but it still didn't serve them the justice that they really need. I feel like they could have done a lot more of these characters overall, and they just didn't really do that because they were a lot more focused on story elements, and we're going to get into that. So the cast, like I said, definitely did get better as the show went on. I thought the cast was really good, and the writing also got a lot better. I mean, the writing started off, it was quite confusing. There was a lot going on. By episode 5, that's really when things started to calm down, and I like that. I like that they realized that things were getting a little too much, and I understand, they want to do the 4-episode thing to hook viewers in, but I like that they started to slow down after about episode 5. Episode 5 is when I thought it started to slow down a lot. I started to really get into the show. I actually started to pay attention to what was going on, because I'm not going to lie, for the first 4 episodes, I was very in and out. I was like, I don't know if I want to keep watching this. I like it. I don't like it. There were a lot of things I liked and a lot of things I didn't, but by episode 5, then I was really starting to like the characters, and I feel like from there, it just stayed quite consistent. Every episode kind of got better and better as it went on, and I definitely really did appreciate that. And the writing wasn't the best. I definitely will say there were a lot of things that didn't feel as great as they could have, as grand as the writing could have, but they did a good job at telling the story between the Circle and the Clave, the two rival groups here, the rivalry that they have, the fact that they're constantly after them, this type of schemes that they would create against each other. And there's a great episode where Clary actually convinces them to fight, and I really did believe it. And I feel like after that episode, that's when the show started to get really great. I really enjoyed it overall. It's actually after the episode, once Simon became a vampire, that's when I really started to get locked into this show. Then I thought the show got really great, and from there I thought it was really good. So I thought the writing was good, and the action of the show at first was very much like clusterfuck of action, really. There was just way too much going on, in my opinion, and it was kind of hard to keep up with everything, but as the show went on, I think they did a much better job with the action scenes. They toned them down a lot. They weren't exactly memorable, but they were really intense, definitely. When they needed to feel intense, they definitely were intense, and they did a pretty good job with the action overall, especially when Jace had a lot of action. I felt like Dominic Sherwood did a really good job with his scenes, and they did a really good job with his action stuff. Some of it was a little bit silly, definitely, but I think there was a little bit of too much action going on, and I thought for the most part the action was okay, though. I definitely did like the acting overall. I thought they did a good job with it, definitely. It was pretty good. And like I said, there were a couple big revelations towards the end of the show that I thought worked pretty well, and I thought they actually made a lot of sense to the direction they went in, which we'll get into that with spoilers. But now let's get to my problems with this show, because there definitely are still quite a few problems, and I've already said one of them. They don't really develop these characters as much as they should have. Simon and Alec have very interesting arcs going on throughout the entire season, and the rest of the characters, it's quite sporadic. Jace has stuff in like the last 3 episodes. Isabel never really had anything interesting going on. Luke kind of did, and then they abandon it. He's a werewolf, but they don't really do much with it, honestly. And then Magnus, his only arc was really his love for Alec. There really wasn't much else going on with that, and I'm hoping they tap more into that in season 2. I get it, it was the first season, they're trying to focus on the more interesting characters, but I just felt like they didn't really give anyone else that interesting stuff to do than Simon and Alec, and their stuff was great, really, but I just felt they didn't really do much else with them besides that, so the character development definitely was a little bit shaky. However, the biggest problem with the show is none other than our villain here. Alan Von Sprain as Valentine is one of the most miscasted villains I've seen in a TV show in quite a long time. I mean, for the most part, I think villains are casted really well in TV shows, and there hasn't been a while since I found someone as miscasted as Alan Von Sprain. Let me put it to you simply. There is an episode in the show, like I said, where we go into an alternate dimension, and we see Valentine, he's Clary's father, and him and Jocelyn get along just fine. He acts like a really nice guy, and that is the kind of character that I want to see Valentine be. He's really nice, he's very charming, he actually has this, nice energy to him that I think would be a lot of fun if they just made him a fun character. The problem is, he's the villain of the show, and nothing about him is ever menacing. If anything, it's laughable, honestly. I never felt that Valentine was menacing. I never felt like this is someone who I can actually take seriously. I never really felt like he was that much of a threat in general. He just seemed like he had an army who really wasn't ever that strong, who they could easily just take out, very quickly, and I really didn't feel like he had much to do. I mean, sure, he won the Mortal Cup, and we understood why he won it, and we understood why he was so obsessed with Jocelyn and things like that, because he does put Jocelyn in kind of like a cryogenic state, basically, where she's kind of in stasis throughout most of the season, but I just didn't really feel like he was that effective as a villain until the very end of the season. The very end of the season, then I'm like, okay, now I can see what they're trying to do with Valentine, but other than that, I found to be very background, and that's because they don't really give him a ton to do, and it's not the character, I think. It's the actor. The actor just... I really kept thinking throughout the entire show, how great would it have been if Alan Von Sprang was Luke? Honestly, I could have easily seen him as Luke. He would have been a tremendous Luke. I think he would have done a great job as that character. And if Isaiah Mustafa was Valentine, I think he also could have been really great. I think just switch those two roles, it could have been a lot better, honestly. I just feel that Alan Von Sprang was horribly miscasted. I haven't seen a villain this badly casted in a while, and that really does suck because they had a lot of potential with this character, but he never really delivered because I never really felt he was that intimidating and that unlikable in the show. He was very likable. He had this kind of, like I said, charismatic presence, and I didn't really feel him as Valentine. I just didn't really... there really was not much menace to him. Maybe there was definitely the charisma, but there just wasn't the menace and the edge that I feel this villain really needed in a better role. If anything, I think John Rhys Meyers in the movie did a much better job as Valentine than Alan Von Sprang. That's the only thing I'll give the movie, but he definitely did a better job as Valentine than Alan Von Sprang ever did in this entire season. So now, guys, we're going to get to the part where I do talk about some spoilers, because I do want to talk about some big things that happened towards the end of the season. If you guys have not seen first season, do not watch the rest of this review. I'm going to go full-on spoilers, talk about pretty much everything that happened, the directions that we went with some characters, and let's just get right into it. The first thing to talk about, of course, is after Clary is pulled out of the alternate dimension, we meet up with none other than someone named Hodge Starkweather, who essentially we thought was dead. We thought that Jace's father was very, very dead, but we realized that he's not dead. He tells him the story about all this stuff that happened with him, and I found it to be overall a very interesting story that I definitely really did like seeing. I thought his character overall, I definitely really did like. I like the direction they went with his character. I thought they did some very interesting stuff with him overall. And the fact that he was still alive in Jace's life, us learning all this stuff about him, I definitely really did like the direction that they went with his character overall. I was surprised to see that he was still alive, obviously, because you'd think that he would be dead after all this time. But no, he is in fact alive, and I like that they kept him alive. I was very surprised to see that. But I liked that he was alive. I definitely thought it was interesting to see the way that all of that was done, seeing his character, things like that. But he didn't really contribute to a ton here. He did stuff in the show here and there. He told them about this villain that's out there that they need. He told them about, one of Magnus's allies they need to take down, but other than that, or that they can use as an ally, things like that. But he didn't really do much else than that. The bigger twist is when we get to Jace and Clary, them wanting to take down Valentine. Valentine reveals some pretty big information to them, and this is after Jace and Clary have just consummated their relationship. So, like, if you are not, if you are dumb and you're not understanding what I'm saying, and you can't understand such high-level vocabulary, because I can understand if you can, if you are, lost what I'm saying, Clary and Jace had just had sex. Well, at least the show implied it. They just had sex, and and Jace goes to Valentine, and, he talks about how, yes, he is, in fact, Clary's father, but he's also Jace's father. So, yes, Clary and Jace are, in fact, related. We already knew this. I honestly forgot about it because it's been so long since I watched the movie. I completely forgot about this revelation. I thought they set this up really well, though, honestly. We could see the undying devotion that these two have for each other and how they started to fall in love and the journey that they went throughout the show. I thought they handled it pretty well for the most part, but seeing that, Jace doesn't want to believe it. He wants to believe that Valentine's lying, but this really changes Jace's vision of himself, because here's when Jace goes into a very interesting arc where he starts to feel that he is as bad as Valentine, that if he can kill Valentine, he essentially is just as bad. But he also can't kill Valentine because he knows that, they need Valentine, that he needs to keep him alive, that if he just kills Valentine, it'll just make things worse, and that there are other people that could come after them. Valentine's not the only mortal enemy. There are other ones out there, so it's just not going to be good if he kills Valentine. And the way that Clary motivated him through this, I really did like, and I like the awkward tension that they had here, because they didn't really know what to do. Now they're brother and sister. I mean, they just fucked, so obviously it's kind of hard for these two to really figure out, what they really are, and I like the direction that they went with their characters overall, and I like that Simon realized that he was kind of back in, that he maybe can be Clary's boyfriend, and I don't think they're hinting to Clary and Simon getting together. I don't really see that happening. I see them as best friends. I don't see them as boyfriend and girlfriend, but maybe they'll do in season 2. I'm not entirely sure, but I did really like this twist. I like where it took Jace, at the end of the season, but we'll get more into that when we get to the ending. Alec decides not to marry Lydia in the end. He realizes that this is just not the right thing for him. He did come out to Jace, and he came out to pretty much everyone when Magnus showed up at his wedding and basically told Alec that, you can't go through with this and that I'm supposed to be with you, and it was a really nice moment overall. I like seeing those two together, and I like they stayed together throughout the rest of the show. It looks like they're going to have their first dates, and it's going to be kind of sweet the way that goes down in season 2. I'm looking forward to that relationship, definitely. And then the biggest stuff in the end of the first season, though, is that they do, in fact, get on Camille's allegiance. They get Camille's allegiance because Camille has hidden the book from Claire, because Valentine does obtain the Mortal Cup. He obtains the Mortal Cup. We learn what he plans on doing with it at the end of the episode. We'll get into that, but they get Camille's allegiance, and she gets them to find this book. That this book is actually a recipe book that Jocelyn used to cook for chicken cacciatore, which Claire remembers. And when she realizes the book is actually this is now masking the book as a cookbook, it actually is the book they need to break the spell and free Jocelyn. That's exactly what they do. Jocelyn is freed, and obviously, there's a lot of stuff that she's now forgotten. There's a lot of stuff that she's missed. There's a lot of catch-up to do with Jocelyn, so we'll have to see where that goes in season 2. And then we get to the very end of the episode where we see that Jace basically makes a proposition to Valentine. That Valentine, he's ready to go after all of them, but Jace says, look, okay, you don't have to, if you don't kill any of my friends, I will in fact be, I will in fact go with you, and I'll be part of your army, and I'll, you can be that mentor that you want to be, because he wants to train his son. He wants his son to be just as bad as he is. He wants his son to have that dark edge to him, and that's exactly what Jace essentially decides to do. Not because he wants to, but because he has to for his family. And you very well feel this decision. It's very sad what Jace had to do. You understand why he had to do it, though, and I thought that they definitely did a good job with that arc overall. And then we get to the ending of the episode, where we see that Valentine's initial plan isn't just to have the Mortal Cup and train Jace. No, he wants to train, and he wants an entire new team of Shadowhunters, and he tells them that there is a whole new team, and it looks like they are unstoppable, so it looks like he now has a whole new team of Shadowhunters that are basically going to try to infiltrate the rest of the Shadowhunters, and that is the way this season ends overall. Really great stuff, but let's just get into this season and where I think we're going to go in season 2. So, overall, I definitely did enjoy this season. I definitely will say that. I thought, especially the way things ended, it looks like we're heading to a much different kind of season 2, and I really do like that. The biggest one is going to be Jocelyn and Clary. Clary didn't have Jocelyn next to her 24/7. She had Luke, and I think this will give Luke more to do. Clary will have more involvement, and I'm looking forward to seeing Jocelyn basically play catch-up for this season, because there's a lot of stuff that Jocelyn missed out on. There's a lot of stuff she doesn't know about. Clary has very much changed since the last time she saw her, and I'm looking looking forward to seeing that relationship overall. Is it going to be the same between Jocelyn and Clary, or is it going to be really tense between them? That's something I'm definitely looking forward to seeing, is how the relationship really is after this huge revelation and everything, because it's been a long time since she's seen her. She hasn't seen her since she told her the truth, and even she tells Clary, look, I'm sorry about what happened, and Clary says, look, I don't have time for that, I've already been through a lot. So we're going to have to see what happens with that, because that's going to be interesting. The other big thing is Magnus and Alec. Magnus, Alec knows that Magnus is immortal, and that's something that he's kind of jealous about, and is kind of going to upend their relationship, but I'm hoping this doesn't ruin their relationship. They spent an entire season getting these two together, so if they try to end their relationship, it'll just feel really contradictory to what they were trying to do. I'm hoping that they keep this out of it, the whole thing with him, and, the whole thing with him liking Camille. I hope they keep it out of it. I don't really care much about this. I care about Alex and Magnus, definitely, but I just don't really care that, he likes Camille. It just feels very unnecessary. It just feels like it's there to put a struggle in the relationship that we really don't need, but we'll have to see. That's gonna be interesting. The biggest thing now is Valentine has now created this huge army against all the Shadowhunters, and this definitely did make me feel his villainous presence. I definitely think that they could make him a more intimidating villain, because now he actually has an army to go up against the Shadowhunters, and I'm looking forward to seeing the way that that's all going to go. Is Jace going to give in to Valentine as easy as he thinks it is? Is he really going to go bad because, Valentine's convinced he will? So that's the real question of what's really going to happen there. I think that's going to be very interesting, and I think we're heading to a much darker season, which I definitely am happy about. They also changed the intro this season, which I'm going to talk about in my next review, which I'm very happy to see. Overall, guys, this was a good season. It wasn't a great season. I thought it started off really messy and kind of not boring, but just very messy, tons of exposition heavy, but eventually got very toned down, started to focus more on the characters and what mattered, and there were some very interesting storylines with the characters. There wasn't as much as they could have done. I think they definitely could have done a lot more with them, like I said, with Isabel and Luke, especially. They could have done a lot more with them, because they really felt like afterthoughts. Like Isabel, she was in the show, definitely, but I felt like she just could have gotten a much better arc, and I'm hoping she's given that this season. I don't know if she's going to, but we'll have to see. But overall, guys, I definitely enjoy this season. I am not at all upset that I binged the show. I'm actually happy I did, because what I wanted the show to be, there were a lot of things the movie did wrong, I think the show did right, such as the Clary Jace revelation, or the Magnus and Alec relationship, or even the characters in general. I didn't remember any of these characters from the movie, and I remember them very well in the show, and that's something in general that I think the show has done a lot better, and I'm hoping that they do more in Season 2. But overall, guys, I really did enjoy Season Shadowhunters overall. I think it started off very messy, and it wasn't that great, but I am going to give this Season of Shadowhunters a 3.5 out of 5, or a B-. So overall, guys, that's in my review, Shadowhunters Season 1. Let me know what you guys saw this season overall. Loved your thoughts on it. Are you looking forward to this season? Where do you think we're going to go this season? What kind of things are going to come up within this season? That's it for this video. Hope you guys enjoy it, and we'll see you guys in my next video, which will be for the season premiere of Season 2 of Shadowhunters. I'm going to start reviewing every episode, and I will see you guys for that. Okay, bye.